Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, do you know what October is?
I believe you told me it's Physical Therapy Month.
I did?
I think, when you came in.
You're right, I did. It is national.
I pay attention.
Yeah, it's National Physical Therapy Month.
Yes.
In Moore County, physical therapy is we talk about there's a culture of wellness here.
Yes.
With all the yoga, the exercise studios, the changing demographics, and we also have a very strong physical therapy presence in Moore County, and today we're going to be examining the facets of physical therapy, some of the myths, what people think about them. And one of my favorite people in Moore County is here to join us, and that's Sue Stovall from Southern Pines Physical Therapy, and that's the truth.
Yep.
And she is also being joined by Laura Beck, who is a physical therapist specializing in neurological conditions, which many people are going to go, what? We thought physical therapy were bad backs, stiff shoulders, carpal tunnel syndrome.
There's a whole lot more to that than just those few things.
Well, Sue is, she's one of the iconic people in Moore County, just a wonderful lady, and has actually does quite a few things besides the Southern Pines physical therapy practice, don't you, Sue?
I do.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
How are you?
I'm well.
We get her to smile this whole hour. Paradox Farm
Yes.
is yours. Your cheeses are all over Moore County as well.
I hope so.
You run 2 different lives. You have 2 different things going on, don't you?
I wear many hats.
Yeah. You are very proud of your practice. It's been here quite a long time, hasn't it, in Southern Pines?
I actually had the first independent practice in Moore County back in 1984.
Is that right? Is that right?
1984.
People's perception of physical therapy from 1984 to today has got to be different.
Very different.
Right? And what you do today, what you treat, has got to be different.
Well, I'd say patients are more complex when we see them. There's more multiple conditions that we're treating because the length of stay in the hospital is so much shorter than it used to be. So, and length of stays in nursing homes and length of stays in home health agencies are shorter.
Right.
So we see people in outpatient therapy earlier and with much more complicated conditions.
Okay.
But other than that, a total knee is a total knee, back pain is back pain.
From 1984 to today, the medical community in Moore County has grown by leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a third city off the traffic circle, is it not?
Yes, it is.
It has its own zip code. I think we're petitioning for its own zip code.
It certainly has its own first 3 numbers of a phone exchange.
Yeah.
When I first moved here, everything in Pinehurst was 295.
That's right.
And then they went to 215, and then the hospital is now 715.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Minutia. I'm good at minutia.
Tell me about. You have how many physical therapists? Tell me a little bit about them and what it is that you treat, what you're known for.
Southern Pines Physical Therapy, in its current state, has been there since 1999. We currently have 3 physical therapists besides myself working with us. Laura, who's here with us today, and she'll tell you more about herself later.
Oh, yeah.
But Laura has a specialization, more than just a specialty. It means that she is board certified in neurology. She also has a doctorate in physical therapy.
Right.
Dorian Gorvin is another physical therapist. She is a clinical specialist in orthopedics, and she is wonderful. And Neelam Chaudhary is another physical therapist. She just completed her advanced doctorate in physical therapy, so she has a bachelor's, a master's, and a PT all in physical therapy.
And that's not to mention she runs a third world country as well.
She's our little Indian princess.
It's unbelievable. I mean, she's a multitasker like I have never seen. Laura, good morning. You're laughing pretty hard.
Yes, Neelam is quite interesting.
She is.
And lovely.
That's right. I have been to Southern Pines Physical Therapy, and I will tell you all the people that work there are great. They're friendly. There's a good spirit there. There's a good morale. And it's really pleasant to go in. And they all handle people who complain very well.
We love what we do.
Huh?
We love what we do.
Part of it is you have to be a psychologist as well, don't you? In terms of listening and coaching and cajoling people sometimes, because they're not happy when they come in.
Yep. Nobody likes to be in pain, and everybody needs a little TLC when they're in pain.
Right.
And we're happy to provide that.
Right. You also, I mean, Dory was on last year with Neelam, and I think it was about the same time, and you were doing a special function at the farmers market in conjunction with National Therapy Month.
Right. Laura can probably tell you more about this. The profession of physical therapy has gotten more and more involved in doing days of service.
Okay.
And they've identified, is that day specifically the day of service?
October 17th. Yep. Okay. So October 17th is the Global PT Day of Service.
That's next week.
Yep. So that's going to be both here in the U.S. and across the globe, physical therapists doing what they do best, which is caring for their members of the community. So we're going to be at the Moore County Farmers Market. Okay. And we're going to be offering free posture screens, free balance screens, and you can come meet your local physical therapist.
We're going to talk about that more in depth. Laura, you are not a native of Moore County.
I am not.
Tell me how you got to Moore County, how you got hooked up with, by the way, good judgment on your part, with Sue Stovall.
Oh, I know. I
want to hear the story.
So I'm originally from upstate New York, which actually looks a lot like it does here, but it's a lot colder in the winter.
Right.
So I, after PT school, lived in Atlanta, worked there at a big rehab hospital for 5 years, and then I met a great guy who lived in Moore County.
Oh,
so
is that right?
That's what brought me to Moore County. I've been here for 1.5 years, and he's a wildlife biologist in this area, so we're outdoors all the time.
How did you come to hook up with Southern Pines Physical Therapy? I want to hear that story.
So just talking to other community members, friends, when I was looking for my first job here in Southern Pines, everybody said you have to talk to Sue Stovall about her practice. You need to talk to Sue. Get in with Sue. And I quickly realized how well respected Sue is in this community and in physical therapy. So she's just an amazing person to work with, to work for, and I'm very proud to be at Southern Pines Physical Therapy.
Well, let me tell you about Laura coming into my clinic looking for a job.
Okay.
This darling young woman walks in with a smile that's from ear to ear.
Right.
Laura doesn't just smile with her mouth, she smiles with her entire body.
Right.
And
yeah, she does, you're right.
And I thought, oh my God, I need to find a position for this woman in our clinic, and we just didn't have any positions available. And Laura was a specialist, or had just sat for her exam for her board certification in neurology, and I'm thinking, oh, this community so needs what she has to offer. How can we do this? And she was very flexible with me, and I said, Laura, if we can work together and we can build you a practice, would that be of interest to you? And she said, absolutely. So Laura started working just part-time, and interestingly, when Laura showed up, patients with neurological issues started showing up as well.
Right.
So we've been able to expand her time. She's essentially full-time in the clinic, and what a treat, because, like I said, that smile still covers the whole body every time she walks in the room.
Yeah. Coming to Moore County from the concrete jungle of Atlanta, where people are in their cars, 35 minutes to drive 6 miles.
I love my 10-minute commute.
Right. Moore County is quite a place to live.
Easy to get around, beautiful landscape. I love being outdoors on the weekends, outside of work. Yeah.
And it's a very tightly knit community where you get to know people very quickly.
Yeah, and the same patients keep coming back to the clinic, and you develop a relationship with them. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk physical therapy, but I'll say one more thing about Sue, because we're in a business where you work with people, and people either empower you or they disempower you, and it's either positive or it's negative. And I can tell you consistently over the years, people, Sue, like to work with you or be around you, and there's something that you do. Maybe it's that she doesn't bring an ego to the table. She's always about the other person, as opposed to it's my way or the highway, and it sets a tone, and it's the truth. And I see it in business all the time. You either gravitate towards people or you are on your heels trying to get away as fast as you can. I mean, that's not a compliment. It's the truth. It's a gift that you have, and it's quiet and it's soft, but you're always like level about it, and people listen to you.
You're very kind, Bill. Thank you.
It's the truth. If you want a compliment, I'll say I love your corduroy jacket, and the color looks good on you. But it is the truth, and I mean, and it's I always felt that way about you. And it's no surprise that you have a practice with a lot of loyal people. So, physical therapy. We talk about, everyone has a different mindset for what it is and what it isn't. Can I just throw a couple of things at you before Laura, we get to the neurological?
Please, Bill.
Okay.
Go ahead.
A physician's referral is required to see a physical therapist. That's what people seem to think. True? False?
Both. So if someone has Medicare, they need a script to be treated by a physical therapist.
Right.
But if you have different insurance, private insurance, you do not need a script to be treated by a physical therapist.
So anybody could walk in and say, I've got a tight back, traps are tight, and you can and treat them.
Yes, the profession of physical therapy has really pushed for direct access, which makes physical therapists more available to the community for faster care and hopefully faster resolution of pain.
A lot of people think that it's go ahead, Sue. You want to?
North Carolina was one of the early states allowing for direct access. In 1985 is when you were allowed to see a physical therapist without a physician's referral. Basically, we're limited only by payers. So if your insurance company does not allow you to have payment for services without a doctor's order, your choice then is, do I want to pay for this out of pocket, which generally becomes expensive,
right,
or do I want to get that doctor's referral?
So if somebody comes in off the street without a doctor's referral, do you take insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
We take pretty much all the insurances that you see in the area. TRICARE has really
Okay.
grown. They have a whole different category of payers. Shirley, who's been with me for 20 years, knows that up and down.
Cold.
I just defer to Shirley.
Yeah.
Medicare requires a doctor's order. Blue Cross does not. So it all depends on the insurance.
What do you say to a person who says, I don't need physical therapy, he's got a sore back, or she's got a sore back, I see a chiropractor?
That's not a fair question.
It's not?
Chiropractors have a different perspective.
Okay.
I think we have similar techniques that we might use, but I think that we come from a different perspective. And I'll leave it at that, because there's a lot of great chiropractors in the area.
There are.
And I don't want to create any tension between them, and I respect what they do in their place, and I hope they respect what we do in our place.
Okay. So maybe I can interject something and take the heat. Physical therapy tries to correct conditions as opposed to just perhaps putting a Band-Aid on them. And, people are in balance or they're not in balance. And sometimes if you're not in balance, and I've done this, and I'm a big advocate for chiropractors, you get back into balance and you feel good and you walk out. But old patterns creep back. You go back into your lifestyle, whether it's sitting at a computer, driving. 3 weeks later, you've got the same condition again. So a PT would try to correct the condition as opposed to just mollify it?
I feel like a lot of what we do is education and teaching patients how to take care of themselves so they don't have the same issue pop back up again.
Right.
So it's empowering the patient to take control over how they're sitting in their chair all day and correcting their posture so they're not having that back pain.
Okay. Another myth seems to be that physical therapy is synonymous with rehabilitation. That could be part of it, but it's more than just rehab, isn't it?
Yeah, we try to do a lot of prevention also. So part of doing the balance screen or the posture screen like we're doing next week at the farmers market is about prevention. It's trying to intercept issues early to prevent them from getting out of control and causing pain and dysfunction.
Okay. I have a list. Google is a great resource. I'm not that smart. There's 7 myths, but I have an 8th. And that's not even on the sheet.
Uh-oh.
So physical therapy is not age specific, is it? Because I think a lot of people think of physical therapy and they go, you know, I'm only 35, I'm 40 or whatever, and, you know, I'll just work it out. But they think it's generally for an older clientele, but that's not necessarily true, is it?
No, not at all. And you know, everyone has their own goals to complete throughout the day, their own hobbies, things that they need to be able to do to be contributing human beings. And so whatever that may be, if it's a child who needs to be able to play with their friends or to be able to sit in school versus an older adult who wants to play golf or someone has to get back to work, we work on all of those things.
Okay. Not anybody can be a physical therapist. It's not a question of going to a chiropractor, getting a massage, having a sauna. There's there licensing requirements that are pretty stringent.
Yeah, in North Carolina, we have a licensing board, the North Carolina Board of Physical Therapy Examiners, and we have to pass a licensing exam after completing a very specific curriculum,
Right.
which at this point is a doctoral level of education. We have physical therapy students that come through and do internships in our clinic as part of their training. So you take your exam and then you complete continued competencies every year in which to maintain your license. So in order to be a physical therapist and call yourself a physical therapist, you must meet all that criteria.
And people really shouldn't take on getting well on their own, doing their own physical therapy. In other words, without direction. You want to laugh at what I just said.
I think one of the best parts of a good physical therapist is they spend that time and they get to know you and they get to know what works for you.
Right.
So the person who shows up and says, can you just hand me a sheet of exercises for my back?
Right.
I'm not helping you if I do that.
Right.
If I don't understand why your back pain is your back pain and what's causing it, I can't give you that right information. So
Yeah.
you need to have the skills and the knowledge base and the science behind all the mechanical difficulties or physiological differences that cause the illness or the dysfunction.
You know, Laura, I didn't know you when a couple of years ago I had a torn labrum, and I came to Sue.
That's your shoulder. Make sure everybody knows that.
Oh yeah, my shoulder.
There's one in your hip too.
Yeah. Anyway, I came in for physical therapy. That was good, Sue. It was pretty good. And honestly, I wasn't the most patient. And with Neelam, I would go through some of the exercises, and I'm saying, geez, can we step it up? But I couldn't do it. And there were things she had me do that I thought, why is she having me do this exercise, this motion? It doesn't make sense. You have to go in and sort of give up control. And you have to just, because right now my shoulder is like 95%. It wasn't during therapy, and I kept feeling I was locked up. But today, I don't feel that way. So the 3 months that I was in there was very valuable. And Neelam taught me how to shut my mouth. And she taught me how to turn off my cell phone. She taught me how not to be rude.
Yep.
And to be on time, I think, too, right?
No, I was on time. No, that's true. I came in a few times late, and she looked at me like I was late for my wedding. But you have to just sort of give the control to the therapist.
I think it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah.
the PT has to trust the patient, and the patient has to trust the PT.
Right.
But patients definitely do have to have faith in the physical therapist.
Yeah. We're going to come back in the second set. We're talking all about physical therapy, Southern Pines Physical Therapy. Our guests are Sue Stovall and Laura Beck. We'll be right back.
There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house. Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed.
We're back with our second set of All Things Moore County. Laura, all joking aside, and we enjoyed talking and getting a little to know about Southern Pines Physical Therapy and all that good stuff. But you cover an area of physical therapy that I don't know is so well known to people. I didn't even know that there was something as a neurological physical therapist. What do you cover that we can talk about? Help me out.
Sure. So in physical therapy school, we learn how to be generalists, and then after physical therapy school, we specialize in an area that we're really passionate about.
Right.
And for me, that's neurological physical therapy. So that includes conditions such as multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease. It can also be injuries such as brain injury or stroke. And it can be preventing folks from having pain. It can be restoring function. It can be helping the brain or the central nervous system recover after injury. So there's a wide variety of things that a neurological physical therapist can work on.
And what kind of methods do you use that are different from conventional PT?
So evidence-based physical therapy for patients with neurological conditions really works on doing things that are task-specific, so working on things that someone actually has to get back to doing. So it's a meaningful task, having a lot of repetitions of practice, and having the practice be intense enough to change the central nervous system and help the central nervous system heal.
So you're re-educating the person's muscle tasking? I don't know how to say it.
So
help me out.
Yeah. So say after someone has a stroke.
Okay.
So that's an injury to the brain. And after a stroke, there may be an area that no longer works very well, and that can affect the way someone uses their arm or their leg or how well they can feel on their skin. And what research has shown is that with specific practice, with a lot of repetitions, working on things that are very meaningful for the patient, you can actually have different parts of the brain take over those functions that have been lost.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually create an environment in the brain and central nervous system where healing can occur, whether for the nerve cells or for the blood vessels that have to support them.
Mm-hmm.
So basically our job is to create a healing environment and to restore as much function as we can.
Are many of these patients or clients who come in, are they on certain medications at the same time to help them improve their motor activity?
They can be. like for Parkinson's disease, folks are usually on medications to help control their symptoms.
Right.
So we use physical therapy as an adjunct therapy to what they're receiving with their medicine to help increase their function.
Okay, so what is it about you that drew you to that particular part of physical therapy? Was it a family experience? Was there somebody?
Yeah. I actually do have an aunt with multiple sclerosis, and that's what drew me to this area of practice.
Okay.
But then just through clinical experience and education, this is really the part of physical therapy that got me really excited and really passionate to keep learning.
So my layman's understanding about MS is that it's something that you can have in your system, and it can be dormant.
Yep.
And it can pop up at any time during your life, but you might be not having issues at a moment or time, but it could come up later.
That is true.
Is that right?
Yes.
So you can only work with someone at the time there's a flare-up?
That actually is not true.
Okay.
So they may not be symptomatic, but fitness in general is very important for anyone. Fitness is important for everyone, but especially if you have a neurological condition, you can preserve flexibility, strength, endurance, even during those times when you're not having exacerbations, which would be when you have symptoms.
Sue, are there a lot of people in Moore County practicing this type of physical therapy?
No, not at the caliber at all of what Laura does. There's a lot of members of our community that have multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and have had strokes and have had neurological injuries, and they're treated and they're treated kindly and they have some good success. But Laura has embarked into this new area, and LSVT, do I have it right?
Yeah.
Once you put initials in front of me, I start mixing them up.
Okay.
And I'm an old therapist. We joke that I'm an intuitive therapist in an evidence-based world. And so I got to watch Laura treat this one patient, and I was like a kid in a candy store just watching there with my mouth open in absolute awe.
Really?
After being in physical therapy for years, So it was just amazing to watch her do that. And I'd love for her to tell you about this training and what she's learned in it.
Yeah, by all means.
So LSVT BIG is a program specifically for patients with Parkinson's, but it can also be used for folks with other conditions, but mainly for Parkinson's. And with Parkinson's disease, a lot of times folks will end up with slow movements, small movements, a tremor. They can also have balance issues.
Right.
The LSVT BIG program is aimed at really recalibrating what they perceive as normal motion. So rather than having small motion be what they perceive as normal, for LSVT BIG, for a month-long program, we practice large movements, which can recalibrate what they perceive as normal to what we would perceive as normal.
It sounds like that old adage, use it or lose it.
Oh, I love that one.
I do too.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense for people who maybe haven't exercised for many years, and if they just start a little bit, even though they're so far behind whatever they think the standard is, they're always better off after they do it than if they hadn't done it. Doesn't matter when you start.
Yep. Exercise is medicine, and we all need movement.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the does the medical community, are they fully aware of your presence? How long have you been here?
About
practicing?
A year and a half.
Okay.
Yep.
Is word getting out?
Yeah, mostly by word of mouth through patients referring family members, friends to our clinic once they see some of the new neurological services that are available in this area. We've been getting a lot of folks that way.
One of the things we do well in the clinic is when a patient comes into the clinic, they become our patient. Just like you go to your primary care doctor. When you come to our clinic, you see your physical therapist. You had a problem with your shoulder, you saw Neelam, you came back.
Right.
You come back, you'll see Neelam again.
Right.
Unless something has occurred, like she would have the nerve to have a baby or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And that works well because our therapists have a level of compassion that is absolutely
Right.
Compared to none. I mean, it's just remarkable what they do. So Laura, in her enthusiasm, I mean, if you would have watched her treat this patient, you would have gone out on the street and just looked for people, because it was so exciting to watch, because she was able to help this individual so much. This was an individual we knew prior to Laura treating her.
Okay.
And this is a woman who couldn't get up out of a chair without assistance, and when she was finished, she got up off the floor by herself,
Wow.
which is absolutely remarkable.
Wow. It begs a question: why aren't there more people in Moore County who do what you do? You are the one and only.
I don't have a good answer for that, Bill.
Because we had a show last fall. It had to do with the Glenn Campbell movie that came out. And they had a featured screening of it, and it was for Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about Alzheimer's patients, and there's so much of it in the news today, and it seems to be so prevalent. Do we even understand where it's based, where it comes from? Is it genetic? Is it something in our environment? Do we know? I don't know. I mean,
I think that there's so much theory out there about Alzheimer's.
Right.
I remember it used to be, well, if you used tin foil, or if you dyed your hair, or, there were all kinds of bizarre things that people were stopping doing because of the threat of Alzheimer's. I think it's one of those neurological diseases that the science isn't quite at the level of saying it's caused by this and this alone.
And isn't Parkinson's and Alzheimer's also very difficult diseases, because it's also so hard on the family, on the people around the patient? It's because they're alive, they're living,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not as cognizant, they're not as mobile, right?
Yeah, both are progressive diseases. So
Painful to watch.
yes, it can be very painful. Caregivers have to take on more responsibilities as the disease progresses. So one of the beautiful things about this program, the LSVT BIG program, is trying to preserve as much function, or actually regain some function that has been lost, specifically for Parkinson's, such as Sue was talking about with this patient that we were working with.
Mm-hmm. And in your estimation, what was your most significant achievement with this patient in terms of what could you measure from the beginning to the end?
Sure. So being physical therapists, we love measurements,
Yeah.
and we love to time and put numbers to everything.
Yeah.
So her walking speed greatly increased throughout this program, and she was then able to keep up with her husband when they were walking in the community, which was a big deal for her. She was able to get up and answer the phone before it would quit ringing, and she was able to get her clothes on totally independently, and she was actually waiting for her husband to get ready to go out. As far as balance, her balance greatly improved on the outcome measures that we use for that, which also decreases her fall risk for injury in the future.
Balance is a big deal in physical therapy, isn't it?
It is, and I think that this is Falls Risk Prevention Day, month, week, something, I don't know. We celebrate all kinds of things, but certainly falls in the elderly is one of the higher incidences of hospitalizations and actually mortality.
Yeah. I've been in, as I mentioned, often in the past, and I've noticed that you have a bevy of patients who come in after surgeries, knees, shoulders, I don't know, many other young patients, athletic patients, and then, I come in and I'm the old guy in the room, and there are times I come in and I feel like I'm the kid in the room.
Right.
It just depends on the time of day, too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. I would say 60 to 65% of our patient population is Medicare. It's changing now with the increased military families in the area, so we have a younger population
Right.
coming in with a whole
Right.
different array of injuries and illnesses. But for the most part, Medicare has been, or 65 plus has been a good share. We've had some wonderful people in there. There was a fellow who came in one time who was 97 years old, And his family members brought him in, and the therapist who was working with him had to yell at him to get her so that he could hear her. And she said, "Where are your hearing aids?" And he said, "They're in my pocket."
Oh, jeez.
Because nobody took the time to put them in his ears for him that day before he came to therapy.
We're going to come back in the third set. We're talking about physical therapy, National Physical Therapy Month, with Sue Stovall and Laura Beck from Southern Pines Physical Therapy.
Our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud. Our mum, she's so house. Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed.
We're back for our final segment with Southern Pines Physical Therapy. We ended the second set talking about the varying ages of people that you see, from children all the way up to the 97-year-old man you just were characterizing with the hearing aid. I get in between the lines that there has to be a very strong relationship, personal relationship, between the therapist and the patient, so that the relationship can work, because you get all different types of people that come in.
Yes, and I think that's one thing we do well.
Yeah.
When a patient comes in for the first visit, they will see the physical therapist that they've been assigned to, or the same physical therapist if they've been there before.
Right.
The physical therapist will then do a full history and assessment of what their complaints are, what their goals are, and then assess the patient's physical state. The physical therapist is then going to sit down with you and is going to tell you, this is what I found, this is what I think, and this is what we're going to do about it. And that's where, to me, that bonding takes place with the physical therapist. So now you're developing that trust. So then when that physical therapist says to you, you need to come in 2 times a week, or 1 time a week, or 3 times a week, and you need to do this at home, you know that they're speaking to you from the position of, I understand what your problem is, we together have a plan on how to fix it for you, and this is how I think we should best move forward. So they become a coach in some degree. I mean, they're going to treat you, but you're really coaching that patient on how to best take care of themselves.
Right.
Now, the program that Laura was talking about, again, she does an assessment. It's a very specific assessment, but the frequency and duration of treatment is a little bit different than maybe you for your shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Longer?
Yes, so for LSVT BIG, it's a very specific protocol. You have one-on-one physical therapy for an hour, 4 days a week, as well as doing homework exercises outside of that time.
4 days a week?
For 4 weeks. It's a month-long program. So it's very intense. You practice at a very high intensity, like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 effort during the whole treatment session. And we do a lot of repetitions, and we also work on a lot of functional skills during that time.
Wow, that's a lot of time.
So, like we were talking about earlier, you really need those lots of reps, lots of intensity, and things to be really meaningful for the patient in order to produce those changes in the central nervous system.
Sounds like the patient also needs to come in with an attitude of or having a lot of discipline, or self-discipline, to follow through.
Yeah, the patient really needs to be self-motivated, especially for this program, because there's a lot of time invested in that program. But if the patient is willing to work for it, it's a very successful program.
So after 4 weeks, they do it, they're discharged?
Yes. So after 4 weeks, the program is over. The
Yeah.
patient continues the exercises on their own at home.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a reassessment in 3 months or
Okay.
6 months.
You'll know if they were doing the exercises or not.
Yes. But also, Parkinson's is a progressive neurological disease. So we're not expecting to halt the disease forever. So oftentimes patients need a tune-up. They may not need the full month of therapy again, but they may need some of the therapy again, a shorter duration of treatment.
Has your experience, has it been age-specific so far in the year and a half that you've been here? Have you worked with just a specific age group?
Now, we see children, and we see middle-aged working adults, and we see older adults who are retired. So we see the whole spectrum.
Any differences in dealing with the different age groups? Or the
I think it's a very individual
Right.
issue. I feel like everybody comes in with their own goals and own expectations, and we just develop a relationship and work together towards their goals.
Okay. In just a normal assessment, Sue, of people who are coming in for things that are not neurologically related, what does that first visit look like, or that assessment look like the first time out?
Well, if Dorian's your therapist, she's going to make you take your clothes off, so just be aware.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Okay. Okay.
And actually, I come from the school of thought that I need to look at you to be able to see. So,
Right. You mentioned you're an intuitive therapist.
I am an intuitive
Yeah,
therapist.
I think you're an intuitive person, for sure, in everything that you do, but okay.
One of my funny things that occurs often in the clinic when people come in and I sit down and want to have a conversation with them about why they're there, they want to start to take their clothes off, and I always tell them I'm an old-fashioned girl that we need to talk before they start removing their clothes. And that usually gets them to relax, because people are very nervous when they first come to physical therapy. They don't know what to expect.
Okay.
They've been told physical therapy is painful and the therapist is going to be mean and it's going to hurt. And, certainly there are certain aspects of care that we deliver that may be uncomfortable. But I don't think that we're mean, and I don't think that we intentionally create pain.
Right.
I think that some things are painful. So having that communication with that patient on the front end and building that trust,
Right.
you can get the most out of that patient. To have a successful treatment, I think that you need to have three things. Is one, you have to have a willing patient.
Right.
You have to have the right diagnosis, and that's why the therapist is going to do a thorough assessment about what the problem is. We often have patients come in and say, I got a pain in my leg, and their problem is their back. Or I have a pain in my neck, and it's really referred up from their shoulder. So the skills and the knowledge of the physical therapist is going to be able to look at the complaints, look at the pattern of the signs and symptoms, and be able to identify what the problem is. You're not going to get better if you don't treat the right diagnosis. And the third piece of that is you need to have a skilled provider.
Right.
And when you have those three things, you're going to have success.
Okay. What is the adage about referred pain? I don't know if it's an old wives' tale. I don't think it is. That if you have pain, you just mentioned something. If you have pain in your elbow, it could be coming from your shoulder, or vice versa. It's not always at the point of where the pain is. It's above or below it.
So it's called referred.
Yeah, but is it one way or the other, or is that just a?
Generally, pain refers down.
Okay.
But pain can refer up.
Okay. So if you have a hip issue, you're going to feel it in your leg.
Generally.
Okay.
If you have a hip issue, you're going to feel it generally in the front of your leg.
Okay.
If you have a back issue, you're going to feel it in your butt.
Okay.
Can I say that on radio?
Yeah, it's okay. You can say anything you want. I want you to talk a little bit about the event that you have coming up next week. Is it going to be down at the downtown area at the area where the farmers market is?
I'm going to be at my cheese table selling cheese.
Correct.
These wonderful women are going to be out there, and Laura will tell you all about it.
I saw some pictures last year on Facebook, I think,
Yeah.
where Neelam and Dory were out there, and they were testing people, and they were coming in, and it was a great way for them to break the ice and realize that they weren't just women in white coats?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We are real people.
Okay. So tell me what's going to happen.
So next Saturday at the Farmers Market in downtown Southern Pines from 10 to 12. We'll be there. The physical therapist from Southern Pines Physical Therapy will be there. We'll be doing balance screens, so testing if you can stand with your feet together, with your eyes closed, assessing how good your balance is. And also looking at your posture. We talked a lot about prevention and not treating people only when they've had pain or dysfunction for a while. But this is really aimed at preventing falls for all age groups, not just the elderly. And balance issues really can impact quality of life. You don't feel like being out and working in your yard, gardening, if you feel like you're going to walk out there and fall, lose your balance. So balance and posture really affect quality of life.
It's amazing when you close your eyes what it does to your balance.
Yeah.
Doing a standard yoga exercise, if you're doing tree, if you're on one leg, and you're balancing on one leg, and you think it's so easy, well, you learn to do it. You close your eyes and you get tipsy.
It's a different world.
Why is that? Is it all the stimulation that you're losing?
So your vision plays a big role in your balance.
Wow, huge.
So vision, your inner ear, and then your sensation, like on your feet. So if you go down to standing on one foot, you have a lot less contact with the ground.
Right.
If you're standing on 2 feet and you close your eyes, that takes out your vision.
Right.
So a lot of times when we test balance, we take out one of those three pieces, which can also tell us if you have an impairment in one of those things. We can work on those.
So what I like about the event is that you're going to be giving people good information. You're not out there selling something. You're informing them if they want to come in on their own, that you make them aware that you're there.
Definitely. It's a service, and a lot of times just a little bit of information goes a long way. But if someone has needs after the clinic as far as wanting to work on their balance formally or their posture, we're happy to see them.
Okay. That sounds great. And your website, people can go to your website, and it's fairly intuitive. A lot of guests, by the way, just so you know, to cover you, just in case. They don't know their own website. They forget.
I do know my own website.
Okay.
It's sopinespt.com. SOPINESPT.com.
PT.com.
That wasn't hard for me to remember.
No, very close to the Sopine's Pizza. No, Sopies.
That's Sopies.
Sopies. Yeah, but you could just add an N in there, and you're fine.
Well, except for the PT at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Sopine's PT.
That's right.
But we do like pizza.
Okay. I will tell you, we joked a little bit at the beginning. The therapists that I've met there are great. Neelam is wonderful. I'd like to joke, and when she hears the show, I think I'm in for a lot of trouble. But I can't know anybody who leads as much with her heart and her passion as this young lady. And she is very serious about her business and her intentionality. And it comes through. So, Neelam, if you're listening, forgive me, because I'll be seeing you soon, and I hope you welcome me with open arms.
Between the lines, Neelam, it was "Don't hurt me."
Yeah, that's right. She'll listen to it.
She will.
Laura, it's been a year and a half, but welcome to Moore County. And
thank you so much.
Hopefully
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get the word out, and people will come in and see you. You're a great spokesperson.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, and Sue, it's always a pleasure to see you. Southern Pines Physical Therapy is one of the most iconic locations. It's on Bennett Street. People have driven by it for years, and you have retained the charm. That building and that lot is sort of frozen in time from the outside, but that's not a bad thing. Right?
Talking about my lack of landscaping.
No, it's just the charm of the age of the building, and I look at that building. It's on the corner of New York and Bennett, and I remember driving in this area way back when Sledden's was a restaurant on Bennett Street, and looking at that building reminds me of looking at 1990, 1995 through time, even in the 80s. because there's so much change going on in Southern Pines, and you get down in that area, and it's nice to see something preserved, and it is.
Southern Pines is wonderful.
Yeah.
My original office was actually in Pinehurst when I first started in practice.
Okay.
And I've been in Southern Pines since 1999, and I love being in town with an office.
Right.
Because you have windows and you get to watch people walk by and
Right.
People drive by, and if the fire engines go by, we all run to the windows, and so you can see people coming in from the parking lot and leaving into the parking lot, and we eat lunch in town. Well, we bring in lunch in from town. We don't get out of the office very much. But we do feel very much part of the community in that spot.
Yeah, and being a native New Yorker, you don't get to do that up in the New York City, the boroughs. Here, it's just so much more. How long have you been here from New York anyway?
I moved here in '82.
Okay.
And
Wow.
But I was in school in Virginia before I moved here. So I've been here a long time.
And you grew up Long Island?
I grew up on Long Island.
And you went to school in Virginia?
I actually have 3 degrees, all in the same profession, and now mostly I just herd goats. But
Yeah, right.
My original degree was an associate's degree as a physical therapist assistant, and then I moved to Virginia and got my undergraduate degree from Old Dominion University in physical therapy.
Okay.
And then in 2003, I received my doctorate degree from Boston University.
Okay.
So 3 degrees, 1 field of study.
You'll be pleased to know we're going to go over to the Southern Pines, the Way Cheese Shop.
Southern Way?
Southern Way. And I think Dee actually went over there today because we're going to try to have a broker cocktail party, wine and cheese tasting at a specific home. And so we decided we'll go there, so there'll be plenty of goat cheese being served.
Yes.
And hopefully some good. So what is the best wine to have with goat cheese?
You're asking the wrong one because
Really?
Any wine goes for me good with goat cheese.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not white, it's not red, it's either.
Right. And so you're doing wine, but the big thing nowadays is beer and cheese pairing.
Beer and cheese.
I'm not a beer drinker.
It's another whole show.
Another whole show. Oh, you need to talk to those people.
The craft beer people?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's taking over Southern Pines.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed having you guys both on. Southern Pines Physical Therapy is a great part of Southern Pines, and so is you, Sue Stovall, and we'll be talking to you in 15 years, Laura, and we can say the same thing about you. But you're here already.
You could say that now.
I do say it now.
She's
Yeah.
just what you see is what you get with Laura.
Yeah.
And it's one big happy smile.
It was a pleasure. Best of luck at the event on the 17th down at the Farmers Market, and those hours are going to be 10 to 12.
You got it. Thanks, Bill.
Enjoy.
you, Bill.
Thank you both very much. Have a great week.
In the middle of our street, our house. In the middle of our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening, and it's usually quite loud.